Andrew Tate may have been arrested and jailed for allegedly trafficking and assaulting women, but he still has many loyal supporters, and some of them are as young as school children, unfortunately. Now teachers are struggling to de-radicalize the young misogynists in their classroom. And this is really concerning because it gives you a sense of just how widespread Andrew Tate's influence has been on not just young men, but in this case, young boys. So Tate has received a lot of media attention lately, but teachers and parents say that kids have long been familiar with his content online. One teacher in South London noticed that his students were parroting Tate's ideology and tried to start a conversation with them about it, which I'm super grateful for. Is trying to kind of deprogram what these kids have learned through Andrew Tate's material. The teacher tried to talk through a presentation he made about the issue, but that was quickly derailed by an argument about rape. About a third of the 30 students in the class passionately argued that women were responsible for their own sexual assaults, one of Tate's top lines. The male teacher asked pupils how they would feel if the victim were a female family member. At that point, a lot of the boys changed their tone when I put their mother or sister in that spot, said the educator. But it was worrying that a few core kids didn't and still said that they would be to blame. And that wasn't even the end of the misogyny. Some teenagers said that women were the property of men and that they should stay in the house or submit to their husband's will. So Cenk, this is something that's kind of been on my radar, not this specific story involving this class, but just the void that I think the left has contributed to when it comes to offering advice and help and mentorship to young boys. I mean, there seems to be like a rejection that there is a crisis currently occurring with young men in the country. We can get into that in a moment, but I wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah, look, so first of all, let me just say that people are treating this like this is the first outbreak of misogyny by teenage boys in human history. No, when I was growing up, boys were probably just as misogynistic as you're seeing in this story, okay? Now, but there is a difference. Now, before we had one media, and Walter Cronkite was on, and Dan Rather was on, et cetera, and they weren't gonna do this nonsense, right? Because they were trying to appeal to a broad audience, and there were no niches, there were just mass media. Television, radio, newspapers trying to reach everybody, right? Now, media is splintered, so there are niches everywhere. So now we have people that take some of the bad instincts that normally arise as hormones are kicking in for teenage boys. And they think, oh, good, that's a market that I can serve. So I'm going to monetize that market by saying, oh, you're right, teenage boys. You should hate women, especially the ones not dating you. And you should treat them roughly. And you should believe terrible things about them, et cetera, et cetera. Andrew Tate from what I can tell, made most of his money charging kids like this nearly $50 a month for his tutorials on how to be a hustler, right? So he's literally monetizing our worst instincts and then thereby spreading them even more.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad. So that was one educator's experience. Let's hear from another teacher and this person's experience with students who consume Andrew Tate's material. You used to have to deal with sexist stuff, but now it is explicitly connected to Andrew Tate. The boys do not stop talking about him. In one class, the teacher, Jordan, reprimanded a 14-year-old. "You're just a woman," he responded. Which students are more likely to fall under Tate's spell? Well, I think that's the most important part of the story, right? Because this is where there could be intervention. This is where I think, look, I just think the left is better. I do think that there are boys and young men. I mean, you see it in the statistics, like the prevalence of suicidal ideation, the prevalence of actually carrying that out. They're self-reporting on how alienated and lonely they feel, how they can't even name a single close friend in their lives. This is not good. These are obviously problems. And when you have someone present himself as a mentor, as someone who has all the answers, as Andrew Tate does, as Jordan Peterson does, well, that creates a culture that the left is against, right? We don't want that culture, and unfortunately, we're seeing it play out now. So which students are more likely to fall for Andrew Tate's spell? An anonymous North London teacher says, quote, "It's the most vulnerable and socially awkward boys that are drawn in and given a sense of belonging to something that is very dangerous." Teachers also state that young boys are drawn to Andrew Tate because of his big houses and fancy cars. And this is the other really depressing part. You see this all over the place with a lot of young people actually, where like, I could just be an influencer. It's what I want to be. It's my dream. I want to be an influencer. Now in this case, they want to be the kind of influencer that Andrew Tate is selling. Boys are attracted to him because he tells them he is successful and rich. He is selling a lifestyle. When we mention his hatefulness toward women, some excuse it as simply creating a successful life for yourself. One teacher said that some pupils were giving up on studying for exams, feeling that they no longer needed education to thrive. The students always end up saying, quote, "I can get rich on the internet. That's what Andrew Tate did," end quote.
Look, guys, this is dangerous stuff because Andrew Tate has talked about how women are partly responsible for their own rapes. And he says women have no redeeming, are inferior, should stay in the kitchen, should just be servants of men. And if you get young people to believe that, that is very, very dangerous, young men, right? Because now we're not talking just about opinions, but when it comes to some of these actions that he says, including sexual assault, and he's glorifying it, that is super dangerous. And so, but to Anna's original point, the answer isn't just going after Andrew Tate. The answer is also giving a productive outlet, not saying like, hey, all those boys are the worst people in the world and we should hate them too. No. And by the way, when educators go and give these presentations about how you shouldn't be misogynistic like this, guess what happens? For some of the kids, it doesn't get through to them at all. But for other kids, it does. And they go, oh yeah, I never thought about it that way. Oh, that's a good point. Oh, right, I wouldn't want that happening to my mom, my sister, etc. And now I begin to understand it because that's what happens when you're growing up. You are introduced to a lot of new ideas. Some of them make sense, some of them don't make any sense. Some of them jive with what you were previously taught, and others are totally against it. And you cycle through those ideas until you land in a certain place. And so it's important for us to give them an alternative. There's nothing wrong with being a boy. And I know that there's sometimes rivalry with girls when you're in that age range, right? But there's a better way to handle that than misogyny.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.